Hi, so I decided to do a little art tour and show you my old paintings. These are from when I started to paint 5 years ago, so I'll just start. Okay, so for this one, I didn't use a reference, and I think you can tell the ear is wrong, anatomically speaking, and the lighting is not precise. It's not terrible for a beginner, right? Here's the back of the painting of this one. It's just some flowers from imagination again. I think you can tell that I didn't use a reference for this because first of all, I don't think this type of flower exists. It's just a random imagined flowers. Here's another flower, and I think this is one of my very first acrylic paintings. I don't remember 100%, but I think I used a YouTube tutorial for this, but it didn't help. All the colors on this page, they don't really go together, I think. But I didn't care about that. I bought a little set of acrylics and I just tried to use all of them just to see if they go together or not, and experiment, familiarize myself with the medium. Here is the back of this painting. It's a portrait without a reference. Yeah, again, my problem area, the ears are off. Just the anatomy is not very realistic. But I kind of like how I painted the irises. I think they're so nuanced. But of course, the anatomy is wrong and the colors don't go together. I was trying to use browns and yellows, just earthy tones. Okay, this one is also one of my very first experiments. Just when I bought the paints for the first time, I think I followed a tutorial to attempt some greens here, and for this one I didn't use a reference. I just painted a mouth, lips, and teeth, and then I decided to add the rest of the face as much as I could fit on the page. So it's just the nose and the jaw. And again, you can tell that I wasn't using a reference because, yeah, I didn't know how to add dimension to it. I thought I knew some basics, like there's a shadow under the lower lip, there's a shadow on the edge of the jaw, around the nose, a little bit of highlights above the upper lip and around the nose, and here and here. But yeah, I needed to learn more. But again, I was just starting to use acrylic paint for the first time, and I was familiarizing myself with the paint, and I didn't care about anatomy and all of that stuff at that time. Here's another flower painting from imagination, and I was just trying to use this color. I was messing around, mixing paint, and I came up with this red, and I liked it a lot, and I just covered the whole page with it. And then I decided to add some flowers, unrealistic, fictional flowers. And at that time, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a painter, so I was scared to use paint. I kind of felt like I'm wasting it. So I think you can tell on this page, because you can see through the paint. So I wasn't using a lot of paint, I was just using it sparingly. This one is a little newer. It's an oil pastel portrait. I don't remember if I used a reference for this, but oil pastels, I got them a little later. See, I started painting with acrylics in 2017, and this one is probably a year, maybe 2 years later. This one is old. I attempted an abstract. I think it's 2017. Actually, I'm not sure what year this is, and I didn't have a reference, I was just painting shapes. This one is from 2017, I think. I'm not sure. I tried to paint Candace from Portlandia, but it doesn't really look like her, but I tried. This one is also old. I didn't use a reference for this portrait, the bigger one. The ears were my problem area. I'm not sure if I used a reference for them, but yeah. I thought this was gonna be my thing. I was gonna paint female portraits with flower crowns. Then I gave up on that. I, again, kind of like the way that I painted the irises, but the anatomy is not realistic because, again, I didn't use a reference. And for this one I did use a reference, but it was just a spontaneous little sketch. I tried to paint Grimes with little daisies, and then I just abandoned it. This one is from 2018, maybe later. It's an oil painting without a reference, so the anatomy is not very realistic once again, and the ear is not there at all. I tried to use a palette knife for this one, and a little bit of abstraction in the background. I think I watched a couple of documentaries about Gerhard Richter, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And so I did this palette knife stuff, but yeah, I don't think the colors are harmonious on this one. This portrait is from the same era, so it was a year after I started to paint, I think. Maybe a little more than that, maybe 1.5 years, 2 years. So I started this as a portrait from imagination, but then I'm not sure, but I think I used a photo reference to fix some anatomy moments, maybe some shadows and highlights. But yeah, this doesn't look close to reality that much. The hair, the face, but I did like it at the time. I liked how the gold earring looked, and I like this aqua turquoise background. This one is older, I think the same year that I just started to paint. Just an abstract from imagination, without a reference or anything. I was just, again, the first year, I was just trying to use the paint and see what effects I can get. So it's like experimental. And the colors don't go together, but I wasn't really trying to make them go together. I think this one is acrylic, because I remember this blue. This one is also from the first year that I started painting, maybe even the first month. This is just a portrait from imagination. I tried to use weird colors, paint a red face. Yeah, the ears were my problem area. I didn't know what to do with the hair, so I just kind of spread some yellow in the background. The roses, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I tried to follow a tutorial of how to paint roses for beginners. But yeah, they don't look very realistic. This one is an abstract I attempted. The colors just don't go together for some reason, although they all came in one set. I don't know, it felt like they weren't curated well enough for beginners. This one, this part I added later on just to try out my oil paints, because I bought oil paints after a few months of trying acrylics, and this portrait is acrylic and I didn't use a reference, and again you can tell by the ears that I didn't use a reference. And yeah, the face doesn't have enough dimension. So I didn't like the portrait at the time, and so when I bought oil paints, I just covered this part just to try out the oils for the first time to see how they feel. I decided to buy oil paints because acrylics were just drying up too fast for me. I felt so frustrated because I couldn't blend the colors. And so I thought maybe I should try oil paints. And so I bought a little set of oil paints. This one is an acrylic abstract. I was just trying to do a little bit of impasto. And again, I don't think the colors go together very well, but maybe if I change the colors it could be something. I don't know. It was just for fun. And this is the back of this painting. I tried to paint Angelina Jolie from from memory, and I was happy with this at the time when I painted it. I thought it looked like Angelina Jolie, but now, yeah, I could fix some things about it, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna keep it as a memory. Again, you can tell that I didn't use a reference because the ears are so incorrect anatomically. But yeah, I think I was a fan of Angelina Jolie at the time. Oh, now I remember, I was watching a movie with her, the one with Brad Pitt. What was it called? She was a dancer there. A later film, like before they got a divorce. And I think I just stared at her and I really liked her eye makeup. so I thought maybe I should paint her, and after watching the film she was fresh in my memory, so maybe it doesn't look terrible. Like, I think you can tell that I tried to paint her, right? Because her features are so recognizable, but also you can tell that I didn't use a reference. And now that I look at it, I really dislike the green background, but at that time I didn't think about my color palette much. I just started to paint with whatever caught my eye. I guess this one is an older oil painting. My painting folders are not very chronologically consistent, so this is gonna be a little messy, but I think this one is from 2019, but I'm not sure. I'm not happy with the colors of this one, but yeah, it's definitely better than my first year. This one is a little newer. It's an oil painting. I think it's from last year, maybe earlier than that, but underneath it there was an old acrylic painting from maybe 5 years ago or so. I didn't finish it, but I kind of like the way it looks, like this, sketchy a little bit, a little rough. This one is also newer. I think it's from the same era as this one, because I think I bought a purple oil paint at that time, and so I incorporated it everywhere. I used a reference for this one. This one is also from this era. I think I used the same purple here. For this one, I used a reference just for the anatomy and the lighting, but the composition, I think I made that up. And underneath that, there's an old oil painting from 2017, and I wish I didn't cover it up because it wasn't good, but I still remember it, and I wish I had it to kind of examine, to look back at it, but I think I still have the photo of it, so it's okay. These are some small paintings. I think these are from 2018. I like how it turned out. I think smaller portraits, they just come easier to me. Here's another one, small portrait. I really like the brush strokes. This one used to be my favorite when I just finished it, and I still like it. I used references for all of them. Yeah, I really like the background and the colors. And this one is a failed attempt. I tried to paint Fred Armisen here, scraped it off. This one is just a sketch on the cover of a sketchbook. This one is an abstract with oil pastels. I was just trying them out, trying all the colors, familiarizing myself. That's one folder. Here's an oil painting. I didn't finish it because I didn't like it. Yeah, florals, when they're so complex, they just get on my nerves for some reason. I think I'm very impatient, and so yeah. This one I think is from last year. It's a self-portrait just on a black background. At that era I painted a few simple portraits on a black background. I thought I'd work on my anatomy, I guess. I don't know. And here on the back of the painting you can see an older painting. It was from 2017. I didn't use a reference for that, and I guess I thought it wasn't successful, so I covered it up. This one is from the first year of my acrylic painting adventure. This is a self-portrait, and I don't look like this actually. But when I first painted this portrait, I was super proud of it. I liked how the eye makeup looks smoky, but yeah, the ear doesn't look good, even though I did use a reference for this one, a selfie. And I think I was into Van Gogh at that time, so I tried to do a little turquoise-ish background, but it looks... Is this cerulean blue? Just some kind of blue. And not a lot of tone variation, so maybe you can't tell that I was into Van Gogh, but yeah, again, this is my first year of painting. This one is also one of my earliest paintings. I didn't use a reference for this one, but I stared at myself in the mirror for a few minutes in this pose, and I tried to recreate it from memory, and I don't look like this, but I really like the color palette. This one is, I think it's from 2019. It's also a self-portrait from a selfie, and I think this painting is better than these two. But I don't look like this. I definitely made myself look prettier. But yeah, I like how I painted the jewelry. This one is another self-portrait. I think I painted this one after this, and it's closer to what I look like in real life, but not exactly. It's just oil paint on a gessoed paper, and this one is oil paint on top of a metallic acrylic ground, and these two were acrylics. This one is old. I think it's from 2017. It's from this era, you can tell by... I think I used the same reference. Oh, no. I didn't use a reference for this one, but I painted this selfie from memory. So the pose is the same, the shirt is the same, but the anatomy is not very accurate. But again, I like the smoky eye makeup here. The skin tone looks a little too gray, and here the background is also a little inspired by Van Gogh, but obviously it's different. This one is older. I think it's from 2018. I used someone else's photo for this, and I think it's okay. I don't like the top that she's wearing. Yeah, I couldn't paint that part realistically, but I like the face and the background and the colors. But I still had problems with ears, I think, even though I used a reference for this one. I think this one is from the same era as this. I used a acrylic metallic background and painted the face in oils. This one is an oil painting, and I think I started to use paint thinner here. Before this, I think I used not a paint thinner, but like a paint medium that consisted of oil and paint thinner and something else. I forget the name of it. Varnish. And here I bought just paint thinner, and I used it a lot to create little drips. And I remember I had headaches because of it, because it was stinky. And this one is a portrait from imagination. And I think you can tell that I didn't use a reference, but also I think this one is better than my first attempts, the first year I started to paint. Yeah, but the lighting is a little inconsistency. The highlights are all over the place. This one is from the first year. I painted without a reference, just from imagination. I tried to paint something colorful and fun. I used acrylics, and I just avoided to paint the ears completely. This one is also from my first year of acrylic painting. I tried to use super thin diluted paint, and I really like how the irises look, but the ears are not good, so I only painted one. This one I tried to copy someone else's painting. I'm not sure, but I think it was John Lariva. He's on YouTube. I think it looks better than if I tried to paint from a photo. Trying to copy a painting it teaches you a little more about painting, I think. But still, I didn't know how to paint ears. And the teeth look not really great, but I like how the lips turned out. The nose was a little difficult for me too, and she definitely doesn't look the way that the reference that I used looks, but I was proud of this one at the time. Here I tried to paint a rose and some abstract background. I like the background, to be honest, but the rose is not super great. I was having such a hard time finding the right colors, the right tones of pink, and so the paint in these parts is super thick because I painted layers and layers, and then I kind of gave up and just added random dots all over. But yeah, this was also my first year of starting to paint. I painted Rihanna at Met Gala, and yeah, I liked it at the time, but obviously the likeness is not very successful. She doesn't look like Rihanna, but I like how abstracted the top looks. I painted it on top of an older painting. Here I tried to copy Malcolm Lipke's painting. I think that's how you pronounce their name, but I'm not sure. These are recent. I think I painted them this year. Just gouache abstracts. And this is an oil painting. I think it's from last year. Notice the ears. I think I don't like painting ears now that I'm looking back at all of my portraits. I think this one is from 2018. I used a YouTuber for reference. I don't remember their name, but they made a makeup series about 7 sins, and this one was sloth. And it's an oil painting. Then I added some charcoal details. Next, sketchbook. This one is, I think, from 2019. I tried to paint Sophia Nygaard from YouTube. Here is another fan art. I painted Niska from the TV show Humans. I was a fan of that show at the time. Here's another oil painting. I actually filmed a YouTube video of the process of this painting, but then I privated it because it didn't look very good. This one is a still life, just a couple of jars with candles inside of them. And here's a celebrity portrait. I don't remember her name, but she's an actress. This is an oil painting, and I used a little bit of red oil pastels in the background. I think this one is from 2018. It's also an oil painting, and then I added some oil pastels, blue oil pastels for some details. This one is a portrait of Sorel Amor from YouTube, but it doesn't look like her. Here's one of those rare moments when I attempted a full figure portrait. This is a painting of my sister. I took the picture and she was actually leaning on a chair here, but I decided not to paint the chair. This is an oil pastel portrait. First I drew the sketch of it with a pen, just a ballpoint pen, and then I colored it in with oil pastels. This is an oil painting from 2018, I think, maybe 19. And at this time I was trying this new technique where I would do an underpainting with some bright color, like I think I used green in this case, and then while it's still wet I added other colors, and so I think it added consistency. This one is a little traumatic for me because this girl asked me to do a commission and to paint her on Instagram, and then she just ghosted me when I asked her to pay me the $10 for this. Can you imagine, just $10? And she didn't want to pay me, but she did like this portrait initially until I reminded her that she owes me money. This one is an abandoned sketch. I covered the paper with gesso, and then I sketched out the portrait, and I was going to, paint it, but changed my mind because I thought it looks boring or something. Here's another oil painting, and I kind of smeared the lower part because I couldn't make it look good, that part of her body. Here's another oil painting. Another one. This is just a pencil sketch. Another one. No. I thought I was going to paint it, but it doesn't have gesso on it, so probably not. This is a portrait of my sister, but it doesn't look like her. Yeah, I used a lot of paint thinner here. This portrait is, I think if I changed the lip color, it would look better, but yeah, it looks a little cartoonish. Here's another one where I think I should change the lip color and then it will look better. This oil painting is from imagination. Yeah, from time to time I try to paint a portrait from imagination just to see if I can. It's definitely better than the ones that I painted in 2017, but I avoided the ears. This one is a portrait of Eve Forrester. She's on YouTube and on Instagram, but I think I messed up her chin, so it doesn't look like her. Here's a portrait of Natalie Wynn from ContraPoint on YouTube. It doesn't look like her, but I really like the photo with the lighting, purple and green, so I decided to paint her. Here's another sketchbook. This one is an oil painting on paper. I didn't prime it because usually I prime paper with gesso before painting with oils, but for this I didn't, and I regretted it because it got absorbed so quickly, and I just didn't like the effect it gave, and so I didn't finish it. I didn't finish the hair properly. But I was following a YouTube tutorial for this one by Alex Tavares. I think that's how you say his last name, not sure. But yeah, I love that channel for just academic oil painting. This one is from 2018, I think, or 19. I repainted this painting twice because I didn't like how it came out the first layer, so I covered it with a little more details, but it was a little more painterly the first time, so I ruined it a little bit, but also it became more accurate. But I still messed up the anatomy a little bit. Like you can see, this part is the angle is a little off, and the neck is a little crooked, and I think this black background doesn't fit this picture. I think I should have used this peachy background everywhere, but I remember this painting when I posted it on Instagram got a lot more likes than I usually get. I think this one is from 2019. I used a lot of paint thinner for this one and a limited palette. This one I tried to paint from imagination, head looking down, but I don't think I got the anatomy correct. This one I I think the same day that I attempted this, I tried to make a monochromatic or duochromatic portrait just using black and yellow, although the background was blue, so you can see blue peeking through. But yeah, it's just a girl in a sweater. This is another Humans fan art, the TV show. This is a portrait of my sister. I took the picture and tried to paint it, but it doesn't look like her really, but I really like the brush strokes here. This is a jellyfish painting. I think it's from 2018. I covered up an older painting with this one. I just wanted to paint something besides portraits because I kind of felt bad because all of the paintings, all of the art at home was just portraits of random people. So I thought I should paint some wildlife or still life, and this was my attempt. This is Yayoi Kusama. I watched a few biographies of her at that time. I think 2018 or maybe 2019. And so I decided to paint her and add a little bit of details at the top and at the bottom, inspired by her paintings, but I think I should have used white instead of gray for a better effect. This is an older oil painting. I painted these because I felt bad for painting portraits, like I mentioned earlier, and I like the way that the roses turned out, but I think the vase kind of ruins it a little bit. This is a portrait of my sister, and once again it looks nothing like her, but I was just trying to use her photo as a reference for anatomy and everything, but paint just a vague face basically, because I was feeling bad for painting too many portraits of her. For some reason, I don't know, I always feel bad if I start painting the same thing again and again. Yeah, and I used a lot of paint thinner. I wanted to create interesting backgrounds. This is a YouTuber, Dasha Green. Yeah, again, that rare moment when I paint a whole human with the legs and everything. And I really like how the sneaker turned out and this leg, but this leg looks a little off, I think, not sure, but overall I do like this one. So that's it. These are all of the old paintings that I consider semi-successful. I just wanted to make this video to show how I painted when I just started in 2017. And I might do a part 2 because I have a lot more paintings, especially oil paintings, a lot of canvases and paintings on wood and cardboard and stuff like that. So yeah, I might do a part 2 to this one, but that's the end of this video, and goodbye and thank you for watching.